Greetings from Las Vegas and welcome to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with you on a Thursday night. Glad to be representing EOG. The three letters stand for Eye on Gaming. EOG.com, a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. Big show planned for you tonight. It's the start of the NFL season. The 2014 NFL season is underway. It started much like the 2013 NFL season finished up. Seattle picked up from where they left off last year. Remember Super Bowl 48, it was a whack job. The Seahawks defeating the Broncos 43-8 tonight. Seattle at home bombs Green Bay to open defense of their Super Bowl title 36-16. It was a dominating effort on both sides of the ball. They win in convincing fashion and win going away. Chris closed the game 4.5 and 47. Money came for Green Bay. That money was misplaced. The Seahawks, as high as a 6-point favorite early in the betting cycle, closed 4.5, and they win by 20. You will hear four voices on tonight's program. You'll hear my voice. You'll hear the voice of accomplished poker player Brent Carter. He's in studio with me tonight serving as co-host. EdTheStatMan to be our featured guest on tonight's program. He'll join us in about 15 minutes' time from his home near Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Ed, a dedicated sports gambler who has a website, EdTheStatMan.com, with tremendous content on that website. We'll go over some of the Week 1 games in the NFL and Week 2 in college football as well. But leading off tonight's show, Arturo O'Connor, a gambling ambassador with a rich history, not only here in Nevada, but also in the offshore sports betting industry. We talked about Arturo on last night's program. He was really on the ground floor of what is the offshore sports betting industry today. He started working at Costa Rica International Sports in the Dominican Republic back in 1988. In fact, he was one of the first employees of Ron Sacco's operation. Arturo O'Connor, good evening and welcome to the show.
Good evening, John.
Artie, great to have you here, and I know you're in Las Vegas for just a short time here, but every year you make an annual trip, and we're glad to have you on the program tonight. You live in Thailand, but sports betting is not big there. Why did you choose to, or why do you choose to reside in Thailand?
Well, it's a good country if you like golf and women. So I enjoy the time there. There's no casinos because gambling is illegal there. But if you want to go gamble, you just fly to Macau, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Cambodia. There's other options.
Your time here in Las Vegas, Artie, tell us about that.
Oh, I had a great time. Played horses with a bunch of guys, fellow posters. Played a little poker, saw some good friends, and really enjoyed myself this time. I took almost 6 weeks off and spent some time on the East Coast, down in Costa Rica, and then here.
What's it like in Costa Rica these days? What's the offshore sports betting climate like?
The same as it has been the last couple of years. But I think if they ever get another, NetTeller or PayPal or something like that going, it's going to take off again. But until then, it's the same. Pretty boring, as I think. Yeah,
it's difficult to move money these days with the banking regulations and all. That's really been handicap to the offshore sports betting industry. It's handcuffed a lot of people moving money back and forth. Did you see the news today, Arturo, where the NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, believes that expanding legalized sports betting is in the future? It's coming soon. He says it's inevitable, and the league is open to participating in it. That's real big news, I think, here in the U.S.
That surprises me because it's the direct opposite of what David Stern used to say.
Yeah. Let me put in that I don't think the states are going to bite on this one. It might be a feeler that the NBA has sent out, because certainly if you can bet on the NBA anywhere you want, that'll increase the attendance, the interest, just as it has done with football. But I can't see politics the way it is. Every state that want to have it, they're going to want to tax it 20%. So I just can't see how this could go through in today's market.
But if it did go through, it would be a boon, I think, Arturo, to the offshore sports betting industry, because the offshores would be able to offer a better product than the states. They'd make it legal here in the states, but the offshore would still have that black market going, and that they could do good things with that, I would think. Silver said that if all the states are broke in the U.S., that it's pretty much inevitable that legalized sports betting will come online and that will ultimately participate in it. So that's a real problem for the states, Arturo, is that everyone's broke. The states don't have money, and they're looking for ways to raise revenue.
Well, Atlantic City had their chance 3 or 4 years ago, to get sports betting, but you're right, everybody is broke.
And gambling a lot of times is a way to raise money. They've done it with the lotteries. They've done it with the casinos. So, why not legalize sports betting? A lot of what happens in the offshore sports betting industry, Arturo, could be happening right here in Las Vegas or in L.A., in Chicago, in New York. I mean, these are some multi-million-dollar companies.
Yeah, just the exact opposite of European sports and their bookmaking operations.
You were in Atlantic City recently, were you not, Arturo?
Yes, I was there. I think early. What was it? Late July, early August.
What's the gambling landscape like there right now?
Oh, it's pretty. I went to the Borgata, and it's the only race book open, but they were packed. The poker rooms are jumping only because it's summertime in Atlantic City. Any other time, it's a ghost town.
It's a ghost town, and I've heard it said that only Borgata is doing well. The other casinos are closing up shop, a lot of them.
Well, yeah, but there's 3 or 4 others that are doing well. Like I said, it's summertime, and they're reaping the benefits. So let's wait till November, December, and see what happens then.
You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly and Brent Carter, joined by Arturo O'Connor, gambling ambassador who comes to Las Vegas at least once a year, sometimes twice. He's an avid golfer. That's one of the reasons he lives in Thailand. He also likes the ladies there in Thailand as well. And you like football too, Arturo. I'm sure you took in Seattle's 20-point.
I love the NFL.
Yeah, and you've got some predictions for us on tonight's program.
That's true. I got just a couple. And in NFC North, I like the Detroit Lions at 4-1 to win their division, even though they're rated below the Bears and the Packers.
Why the Lions?
Great coach. No, not great coach. Good coach, but great players on the offense, and their defensive line has come around. They're listed at 4-1, and I also like the team total over the 8, even at -145 now. They were -110, and I still think they're a play at -45, even with the big juice.
So the Lions to be over 500 and win 9 or more games to cash that bet. You win 8, you get your money back. Do you downgrade the Green Bay Packers off tonight's effort, Arturo?
You really can't. No, you really can't. It's only the first game, and they had to travel to Seattle, which is a tough task for anybody. So, no, I really can't, but Ed Lacy does have a concussion, so we'll see what happens there.
The right tackle left the game as well. That really hurt Green Bay's chances. You need all hands on deck when you're playing a team like the Seattle Seahawks. And Arturo, that Seahawks team, suddenly that offense has become wildly efficient, and they're threatening on both sides of the ball now.
See, Percy Harvin played. I think I heard on a report that he had 6 receptions last year. He already has 6 today, so he's equal to total from all last year.
Yeah, and he was hurt much of the year. Of course, Aaron Rodgers was out half the year with a broken collarbone. He didn't look his usual sharp self, but that may have been because of that outstanding secondary of the Seattle Seahawks. The Legion of Boom, I think they call it, and Richard Sherman, they don't even throw his way. He takes half the field away from the opponent with his reputation. Just outstanding, and Seattle didn't make many mistakes in tonight's 36-16 victory over the Green Bay Packers. And Russell Wilson, Arturo, he's maturing before our eyes.
Oh, for sure.
He's a Super Bowl winner already, and what I like about Wilson, he always makes the right decisions. He knows when to cut his losses, throw the ball out of bounds. He's a playmaker. He can make plays with his arm and his feet, and he's smart off the field, too. He is a leader. You hear him interviewed, and he sounds like a coach.
Yeah, their team looks good. I watched the game with Red Eye, the poster from he posted on a few forums, and we both agree that the Seattle team just moves to the ball. I mean, they're right there. They don't give any space to these wide receivers, and they looked really good. and I don't see how they're going to lose a home game this year.
Yeah, they don't rarely lose at home. In fact, before tonight's game, they were 15-1 in the last 16 regular season games at home. And Brent Carter, you are one who likes to watch a lot of NFL football, draw conclusions from what you see. Arturo was telling us he and Red Eye were watching the game, and no one's open against the Seattle Seahawks defense.
Well, look at the Green Bay center didn't play. They had a guy starting at center for the first time, which this will lead into Green Bay perhaps having trouble for quite a while, and now we have a possible concussion. We have a tackle out. The center is such a key position that gets almost no press. If you're betting games, you need to have an alarm bell go off as soon as they say the starting center is going to miss today, because he's the guy that touches the ball first, and then he gets the ball to the quarterback. It's the chain of command on the field. Now, it's not a glory position, no stats for him, but if you've got a premier center that's out, you may want to look to bet against that team. So I'm going to keep watching against Green Bay for 2 or 3 weeks here and see what happens.
That's the voice of Brent Carter. He joins me on tonight's program. Brent's claim to fame in poker, well, he has a lot. He's one of the best Omaha high-low players in the world. Was at one time. I'm not sure how sharp his game is now. I'll ask him that. But how about this as a claim to fame? Third in the World Series of Poker's main event back in 1995. Dan Harrington won it that year, Brent. You were very close.
Yeah, close. Well, hey, close is it's good in hand grenades. It's good in horseshoes. You get paid pretty well.
What'd you win for being third in the World Series of Poker's main event in 95?
$300,000.
And what does third pay nowadays?
A lot more. Well, pays a lot more because the fields are so giant. I think third can be up to $4,000 or $5,000. $4 or $5 million. $4
or $5 million. What's the most you've ever spent in terms of entry fees for the World Series of Poker's events?
Oh, for a single event?
Yeah. Or a season.
Or for a season?
Yeah.
It's about 50 or 60.
And typically, when you invest $50,000 or $60,000 in entry fees, what's the expected return?
You don't have an expected return. You can strike out just like any team can, or you can roll through pretty well and win $100,000, win $200,000. So I've had some other good years, but you can't expect to win. I know what you're saying. If you took the cross section over 10 years and said how many times did you play, what would you win? Well, you'd be happy if every time you put up your money, it was worth 20% more.
Mm-hmm. Are you as good a poker player as you were, say, 10 or 20 years ago today?
Probably not. I haven't been playing as much. I don't enjoy the game quite as much, and I've gotten where I like betting sports, and it's easy to sit at the computer and play that game differently.
Artie, Brent is a lot like you. He arrived here in town. He saw the glory days of Nevada's race and sportsbook industry. Brent, you remember in the early 1980s marching up and down Las Vegas Boulevard looking for the best numbers.
Well, there were a lot of places, and there was a lot of variety. You could the Gary Austins, which we won't do the finish on Gary Austins right now, but Santa Anita. There were quite a few open shops where they weren't part of casinos. They were independent bookmakers. And a game could easily be a point different if you just were willing to drive a half a mile.
Did you ever get involved in the offshore sports betting industry? Do you have accounts out in faraway places?
Really far away, yes, I have, and Pinnacle was the best. Now there are avenues that people can get into Pinnacle, but you have to jump hoops and crawl under barricades and do a lot of other things to get in and maybe have some nominees. But back when you could have net teller, you could play both sides at two different places, and if you lose, you could straighten your account up right away.
Arturo O'Connor, what's your recommendation in terms of the offshore sports betting world these days? If you had to name 2 or 3 joints you would trust, what would they be?
I mean, the same ones I've always told you, Chris and Grande.
Grande, we had a EOG contributor ask a question about Bet Grande. That's a hard book to get into, is it not?
It is a little bit, because you really have to know somebody or an agent there or one of the employees. Yeah, they don't go looking for customers. Customers come to them.
What was the offshore sports betting industry like back in the day? I mentioned you were in the Dominican Republic in 1988.
Ooh, it was a license to steal for the bookmakers.
Because?
There was no computers. People would call in, get a rundown, and it depended on what clerk you got, what number you got. I mean, we profiled many a gambler.
Interesting. And what was your role there at Chris in the late 80s?
I was just a clerk. I mean, we all started as clerks back in 1988, and most of us worked our way up a little bit, become supervisors. Some even went on to run some books.
You mentioned living in Thailand. You like the ladies, you like the golf, you like the relaxed atmosphere. Is there anything you miss about living in the States, living, say, here in Las Vegas or on the East Coast?
Yeah, the horse racing, naturally. I miss going to. I miss the college game a little bit, in the football college game. And talking about that, I mean, this year will be really interesting because of the playoffs. And I think a lot of teams have a chance to win. There's no clear-cut favorites.
Arturo, thanks for the time. Safe travels back to Thailand, and we'll see you on your next visit.
I appreciate it, JK, and thanks for having me.
Arturo O'Connor, also known as Viejo Dinosaur across several sports betting forums. He's popular at EOG. He's well known at the RX. He sometimes pops into Peep's Place, the gambling forum. Arturo O'Connor on tonight's program. We'll step aside and take a quick time out right here. When we return, EdTheStatMan joins us to talk NFL and college football. You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour.
There's no such thing as a sure thing, unless you're talking about Ion Gaming. Ion Gaming is a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. If you're looking for smart, sophisticated sports handicapping information and insight,
go to EOG.com.
If you're looking for the latest news on the ever-changing landscape of Nevada's race and sportsbook industry,
go to EOG.com.
If you're looking for the most recent developments involving the worldwide sports betting scene with an emphasis on the leading sports books in San Jose, Costa Rica,
go to EOG.com.
And finally, if you're looking to join an online community of sports gamblers where registration is free and the information is priceless,
go to EOG.com.
You get the idea. Why gamble on other sports betting websites when Ion Gaming is a sure thing?
And I love a sure thing.
Hi, this is Rick Alec, president of Sports Options. Sports Options is a sports information tool designed to give sports bettors of all types the necessary edge needed to improve their bottom line. With Sports Options, you'll never lay a bad number again. We provide you with live odds from the leading sports books in the world, from Costa Rica to Curacao, London to Las Vegas, and everywhere in between. Sports Options also provides the fastest and most accurate injury information, lightning-quick score updates, and game analysis from 30-year handicapping veteran Mark Simons. We offer affordable services for players of all levels, starting at just $99 per month. To see which service best fits your needs, you can take advantage of our 7-day free trial. No credit card is needed. Just go to www.sportsoptions.com and click on the free trial link. I'm confident you'll be impressed with our product, and you'll find it the most complete and comprehensive on the market. In fact, if you don't like Sports Options after 30 days, we'll refund you 100% of your subscription costs, no questions asked. Go to sportsoptions.com for all the details, or call 702-835-1743, and one of our friendly customer service representatives will be happy to help you. Sports Options, information you can bet on.
And we are back. The EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly with you on a Thursday night. In studio co-host tonight, Brent Carter. EdTheStatMan is our featured guest. We'll bring him on shortly. Possibly the best-looking in-studio crew we've ever had here. Brent, your girlfriend is here. Marlene, she brought along Cielo. My girlfriend Rachel is here as well. So it's a fun night at the EOG Sports Hour.
What about our producer?
He gets no love. Lawrence Lazar, and a pro, too. He's a real pro. I like what Lawrence does. In fact, he told me last segment, the third place in the 2014 World Series of Poker main event is worth $3.8 million.
Well, I was close.
It's a long way from $300,000.
Yeah.
And Our featured guest today, EdTheStatMan. Ed, good evening. Welcome to the program.
John, Brent, how you guys doing?
We're good. What was your takeaway of the first of 256 NFL regular season games?
Well, with the Seattle Seahawks, they were what we thought they were, and they just came out, played smash-mouth defense, very efficient on offense, and put away the Green Bay Packers. With the Packers, I agree with Arturo. Absolutely no downgrade. I wrote this on my website back in the summertime when I did the Green Bay Packers schedule analysis for this year. This game really didn't mean much to them, as you would think. Seattle's the most difficult team they're probably going to play all year. They have an easy schedule. The most important stretch of their schedule in the early going is after next week. They play the Jets next week, but after that they have 3 division games in 11 days. And just be able to focus in on those 3 division games in 11 days, and if they're able to pull off a 3-0 there, they'll be in serious control of the NFC North division already going into October. So it's kind of like, and I also wrote that on the EOG today, is that, this is one of those games for the Packers you just penciled in as a loss when you went down to the beginning of the schedule, did the win WL to the schedule. And just one of those games that you would kind of expect them to lose. Why get beat up in the opener against this physical defense and put the season at stake? You really want to be playing your best ball in December and January, and not really much in September here.
Why the money on the Pack? It turns out the opening number was better than the closing number. Pinnacle opened the game 5.5 and closed at 4.5.
The only thing I can think of is that they thought the Packers were going to be able to put up points. I only had I opened up a teaser on this game and took Seattle from 5.5 down to +0.5 on this game. It was the only action I had, because I was also kind of a little leery of laying the 5.5, 6 points at the time. The reason the money came on the Packers, I really don't have any idea. Usually the Super Bowl winner is the team that most of the betting public backs in these openers. So this was kind of against the trend over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes, and since 1994, these Super Bowl champs on Thursday night now moved to 18-2 straight up, 13-5-2 against the spread. And Brent Carter, we all know the Seahawks are double tough at home. That might be, I don't have to say might, that is the strongest home field advantage in the NFL.
Yeah, along that line, we got opening night. We're talking about it. I don't want to miss this point, and then we'll get back to the other guest. If you're gambling this time of year, you need to watch the first 3-4 games that come up, especially the key games, the Sunday night games, the Monday night games, where the announcers will make a point of letting you know the injuries and the significant trades. And if you do pro football enough, you can learn quickly what positions are important and which ones aren't. And you need to put these things in your memory bank as fast as you can so that you can last you all season long. So I want, if you're viewing and you want to bet this season, you watch as many games as you can in the next 3 weeks, and it'll do you well at the end of the year.
And Ed, you've got to understand that the style of play now is different than in years past too. This is a passers league. It's a quarterbacks league, has been for the past decade, but maybe even more so now than ever before. Last season, NFL games averaged 46.8 points per game. Teams get up and down the field scoring a lot of points. Today's game produced 52 points, but just in 2010, the average was 44. So it's climbing even from 2010. And the big positions, Brent mentioned the big position, one of the big positions on offense is center. On defense, you better have a guy who can rush the passer and a strong defensive end who can rush the passer and cornerbacks who can cover wider receivers.
Well, one of the things I did take away from this game tonight is the circle of the game on December 7th here in Philadelphia. Chip Kelly's offense versus the Seattle defense at Lincoln Financial Field. That may be the top game in the NFL this year when it comes to the components with the high-flying offense. See how Chip Kelly attacks this defense, because right now I don't see how anybody can produce anything against this defense. And looking at the matchups, they're just solid all around, and the secondary is incredible, and they really shut down. They shut down Aaron Rodgers. I mean, most people think Aaron Rodgers is the number one quarterback. I personally also think Aaron Rodgers is the number one quarterback in the league, and he really got blanked. And you really need that whole offensive structure. That's why I can't wait to see this game in December. Hope both teams are still healthy by then to see how the new mastermind of offense now and how teams should be playing with Chip Kelly, see how he attacks the Seattle defense, and maybe he can find some chinks in the secondary with regards to that strong armor that they have in attacking the other opposing team's offense.
That will be a fascinating matchup, Philly's offense against Seattle's D. And about Seattle's defense, fast and physical. One note I wrote down while watching the game, and you don't want to relearn things every season. Some guys have been betting for 30 years, but it's really 1 year of experience repeated 30 times. If you're into it for 30 years, you want that wisdom to build over the years, and you don't want to have to pay for losing bets year after year, making the same mistakes over and over again. Tackling in football, Ed, that's one area that I don't think a lot of handicappers focus on, and maybe they should focus more on tackling. Seattle, fast, physical. You mentioned no one's open, with the pass routes, and when somebody does have the ball, it's the swarming defense. I mean, it's very tough to move the ball on Seattle for a sustained period of time.
Well, I was reading over the past week or whatever that the Seahawks were fined $300,000 for contact in practice. Now, under this new collective bargaining agreement, I'm not an expert on the sports business end of things, but teams aren't supposed to be hitting in practice, and the Seahawks are hitting in practice. Apparently, they are hitting in practice for them to get fined that kind of money. So can we have another cheating-type scandal like the Patriots were with the video in the past in the previous years? So, I don't know. You come to tackling, I felt like you. I was like, wow, they tackle so much better, but here they're practicing it, and the NFL came out and fined them, so it's kind of like, and maybe they're bending the rules a little bit.
Interesting, and looking for every edge you can find and pushing it to the envelope, pushing it as far as you can, pushing it to the line. And Pete Carroll's certainly a fabulous coach. I can't believe he's 62 years of age. Looks like 10, 15 years younger than that, and his players rally around him. And what a system they've got going. And I mentioned earlier, Ed, the offense for this team is now beginning to gel. They're tremendously efficient on offense. Darrell Bevell gets a lot of credit for that. He's the offensive coordinator. He will one day be a head coach in the National Football League, but they don't have many weaknesses, this Seattle team.
And Percy Harvin, he just adds such a dynamic to the offense. They line him up in the backfield. He split in the slot. He split out wide. He can return kicks. I mean, it's incredible. His return to the Super Bowl last year kind of propelled them to that big victory, and that's the man you have to game plan for, is Percy Harvin. And then when you have to try to contain him on the outside, and then you got Marshawn Lynch running up the middle, just when they get those big leads to put that game away, such a bruising runner. But it'll be interesting because I'd like to see how this line, now we talk about how great Seattle is here, Thursday night opener, catches everybody's eyes. They shut down Aaron Rodgers. Now all of a sudden they have to go on the road to San Diego next week, non-conference game. They have Denver the following week, which is kind of like a rematch for the Super Bowl. So what happens is how does this line come? How inflated is this line now, week 2? And don't forget that they're going to have extra rest in this game, while San Diego plays the late game on Monday night, and they're going to have short rest, 6 days rest for the Chargers. So interesting to see how they're going to look on Monday night before we handicap next week's game between the Seahawks and the Chargers. But, there's only one play you can probably make there, depending on what happens, is to take the inflation in the points and take San Diego.
You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly and Brent Carter, our featured guest, EdTheStatMan, a LaSalle University graduate, majored in math, will get his selections on tonight's program. He's got 2 plays for us, one pro play and one college play. Brent, you have some suggestions for us on how to gamble on NFL football, what to look for in a general sense.
Yeah, we highlighted that you have to watch the games and take something away from them. But what you said about if you watch just the tackling, the plays, I like to watch the play calling too and see, the coaches tell you where they're at. And the tackling is registered in the points against score. Most of that, if a team's given up only 12 points a game, then you can be sure they're tackling. If they're giving up 42 points a game, then you can see that story. I remember the Kansas City Chiefs of maybe 10 years ago. They weren't even trying. They would just bump people and hope they fell down. and they were giving up some horrible numbers. But things to look for. I suggested a couple of things. ESPN or CBS Sports online will give a preview for every game. I suggest the listeners read the previews for each game. It's only going to take you 3 or 4 minutes for each preview for each game, and they'll give you things that you can't pick up by yourself. They'll let you know who's in or who's out or who did something well. And in order to win, you have to work at it. This betting the sports isn't show up and we talk for 10 minutes and we all have winners. You do it all week long. You watch the lines come out. You watch the lines move, and you pay it. You learn from them. Like you say, 30 years of practice. You don't want to make the same mistake strike because you learn what works. And check your box scores. Look for variations. Look for a team that had, maybe you didn't see a game, but a team that had 5 turnovers. Well, will they have 5 turnovers the next time? Probably not. Or a team with no turnovers. You can't count that they'll always have no turnovers. Look for an aberration in the box scores and step up and see if you can take advantage of it.
Right, the deceiving final scores can be a way to make money down the road. And you do have to study the stats, Ed, in terms of as they relate to the scoreboard. I oftentimes like to look at the game through the score, time and score. What are these teams doing? A lot of times in NFL football, there's garbage yardage. If there's if it's a 2 or 3 score game, you're not seeing Seattle's defense go all out like they might if the game was scoreless or the game were tied in the second half. You've got to see the stats through the score.
And that's what a lot of these advanced statistics are doing now, and they're incorporating time and score into their statistics, and they're weighting the statistics. You have a 24-0 game in the NFL at halftime, and 9 times out of 10, that team is just going to run the ball, bleed the clock in the second half, and just get out of there with the win. Most of these NFL teams play not to lose. Most of these coaches play not to lose instead of playing to win. It comes back to hold you a couple sometimes when you're unable to move the ball, get first downs. But the one thing with the NFL game is depending on turnovers. I mean, a lot of the times if you win the turnover battle, you're going to win the game, you're going to win the bet. And that's the hardest thing to kind of decipher. Turnovers are very random. If you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, for example, one team last year, they benefited from a huge turnover ratio margin. And now is that going to happen again this year? I don't think so. I mean, sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's randomness. And when you're digging through the box scores, I think the turnovers is kind of the first thing you really need to look at. And then where the turnover took place. A lot of times you're going in for a score and you turn the ball over the end zone. That kills momentum just as much as you're turning the ball over in your own end, and which leads directly to a score. So sometimes the turnovers in midfield they don't hurt the flow of the game as much because the defense may come out and do a 3 and out. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it, not only with the stats but with the turnovers, and with regards to the that's where you'd be able to see the advanced metrics, be able to help you with that. But it's difficult to sit here as a handicapper when you're looking at 16 NFL games, and if you're involved with college, to be able to go through all that detail in just a given week.
Yeah, not enough time in the day, right? It's tough, especially if you're a lone soldier, not working as part of a group. There's a lot of work to do, no doubt. One thing I like to do, Ed, I like to look at the drive charts. So many times in a box score, it's a compilation of 4 quarters of play where, as you said, the second half might not be competitive. It turns into a polite scrimmage. I like to look at the drive charts to see how teams fare when the game's on the line.
And that's what, when we talk about the NBA all the time, we talk about controlling possessions and being able to put up quality shots. And I've been working on trying to incorporate that type of thought into the NFL and into football. And one thing with Chip Kelly now being the coach of the Eagles and watching his press conferences constantly, and he always talks about time of possession is the most overrated stat in football.
Yes.
Who cares how long you have the ball? It matters what happens what you do when you have the ball. And it's kind of like, and those drive charts are important because you look at like quality possessions. Again, we're talking about controlling the possession. Not only do you control the possession, but you convert the possession. So in the NFL, it's more like control and convert. If you can control the possession and convert your drives, that's going to provide your offensive efficiency.
You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour. John Kelly and Brent Carter. We're chatting with EdTheStatMan, talking advanced stats. And boy, it's a different game now. I think of baseball with the sabermetricians. I think they were the first to really come in and change professional sports, Ed. When the numbers guys attacked baseball, at first it was just for stats' sake, and now the general managers are using it, changing the game. I think football was one of the last sports to go that route, only because it's such a game of brawn over brains that it's not really a thinking man's game. But they're slowly catching up to the other sports.
Yeah, I mean, in baseball, you can watch a game. If you watch enough baseball games, you can tell when certain players they're a little bit tighter under pressure than versus like in a 9-0 game. One of the players I always saw was like Rico Bronya. It was like this guy used to get 20 homers, 80 RBIs a year, but he always get his home runs when it was a 8-1 game in the 8th inning, when it really didn't mean nothing. And you're facing the back end of the bullpen, which is like your bottom end of the bullpen, are just after trying to eat up innings and throw the ball over the plate, and then get the guy to hit the ball and put it in play. So I mean, that's where the kind of the advanced metrics start is. Like kind of like this guy's numbers, maybe 20 home runs, 100 RBIs a year, but he's not getting any. These are not coming in in tight situations, in quality situations, and I think that's where it was a lot easier since to understand that in the game of baseball, because the game's a lot slower, and you can see that develop throughout the game, and when you watch enough games during the season.
The one word that fits across all sports for me, Ed, is efficiency. You mentioned basketball. Ken Pomeroy has certainly revolutionized the study of basketball with his efficiency ratings. I think a lot of the odds makers, bookmakers, they like to use the Pomeroy numbers to make point spreads for the games, to both sides and totals. Football, it's about efficiency. I think baseball the same.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, it's all about controlling the possession and converting your drives. You look at the college football game tonight. I actually watched that more than I watched the NFL game. UTSA drove all the way down the field, 10-point game. They got in, they bogged down within the 10-yard line early in the fourth quarter, and they had to settle for 3, and then the guy missed a short field goal. That turned out to be the difference in the game, as they lost by 3 points.
26-23 was the final. Arizona got the money, much to the dismay of our friend Bobby the Owl Bechtel. Bobby was here last night on the program, tabbed Arizona as a winner. Go ahead and lay the spot with Arizona. It didn't work out. It beat the closing number. That game closed 7.5 at Chris, but UTSA got inside the number. Arizona won the game, but UTSA cashed the bet. Our friend Hustle Double at EOG, he's part of the Grand Challenge. He also had the favorite in that game. It didn't work out. Heim was on the program last night. 2 plays, 2 winners. A tip of the cap to him. And if you heard Tuesday night's program, both Computer Bob and Dink put across winners. Bob had 2 baseball winners, and Dink had a baseball winner as well. And Computer Bob is going to be on the program tomorrow night. He'll go up against Railbird in a one-on-one handicapping showdown. 7 games apiece. Pro and college sides and totals are available to those 2 gamblers. It should be a fun show tomorrow, as we'll hear 14 selections for the weekend card. Ed, the Statman, is here. He's going to give us 2 plays for future action, one in college football and one in pro football. Let's go to the college game. Ed, you like a game that goes tomorrow?
Yeah, I like 304 Boston College plus 4.5 over Pittsburgh. I have over 2 units on this game right now. I just love the head coach here for Boston College, Steve Adazio. He was at Temple for 2 years before taking the Boston College job last year, and this guy really knows the X and O game. I mean, he knows how to put together a game plan, and his offense is based on a power running game. And that power running game puts up some numbers, and again, he's able to control the possession a lot. Just look up his numbers when he was at Temple. He was able to get the Owls to rush for over 200 yards per game throughout the year, and those were with players that he did not even recruit. There were players that inherited, and if you look at their rushing stats before he took over and then after, they were pretty poor. So he was able to get these kids to be able to put together a quality game plan to be able to get them to keep them in games and even win games. And if you look at last year with Boston College, he was able to improve the Boston College rushing numbers greatly in just his first year, again, with kids that he inherited and did not even recruit. Look at Boston College log last year. They went 5-0 against the spread at home, and they were like one of the few teams, they were probably the only team that gave Florida State a real run for their money last year at home when they played Florida State. So they have a pretty solid home field advantage. Again, the Dodger was 5-0 against the spread at home last year. Boston College has this grad student transfer from Florida at quarterback. It's sort of a dual threat. So even though he's a new quarterback, he is a transfer, so he had some experience in college football, and he also got some run in the SEC. Pittsburgh, I don't understand why they're favored here. They have a suspect defense. They were 0-4-1 against the spread on the road last year. Not too happy. Paul Christie runs like this pro set offense, and it really doesn't really produce. When you run that pro set offense that he runs, he really needs to have skilled players, and that's something he doesn't have right now. And the defense, I mean, last year they returned 9 starters, and the defense got worse than they were the previous year and allowed 4.0 yards per rushing. This year he's only returning 5 starters from that team and only one on the defensive line. So I don't see how they can control that power running game here by Boston College, and I think Boston College is going to be able to run through them and control the game, and I think they're going to win this game outright.
The first of 2 plays from Ed the Statman, betting number 304, Boston College plus 4.5 over Pittsburgh. The game goes tomorrow, 4 o'clock Pacific time, ESPN to televise. Do you recommend any action on the money line? Let me check my sports option screen here to see what the plus 4.5 translates to. How about plus $1.70 available at Chris right now?
Plus $1.70 is good, but this line already went from 4 to 4.5. I want to see if any late money comes in on Pittsburgh, but I probably will be getting involved in the money line also at some point.
Brent Carter, the differences between playing on Saturday and playing on Sunday. How do you view games differently, the college game versus the pro game?
Well, I only focus really on the pro game because it's more uniform to me. The college game, for a lot of people, are a lot of opportunities to win money, but there's so much more work. You take how many Division I teams, or they change the names of the divisions every couple of years, but 100 or 120 of the best teams, and then you have to match up who's who, and to follow is very difficult. It's a lot of work, but it's also an opportunity for those people that are willing to put in the work.
Ed the Statman, the differences between handicapping a college game and a pro game.
Well, I think it's the differences with regards to the college game is that you're dealing with kids, and it's a lot more emotional, and you get these big upsets. Like I was hoping that UTSA was going to pull off that upset tonight, because then I would have jumped and faded them against Oregon State, because they're already talking about how this is the biggest game in the Young's program history. It's already, and this is like a monumental game for Larry Coker, and if they were able to pull that off this week, they would have let down the following week. The kids would have been the toast of the campus. In the pros, you don't have that. These are professionals, and again, as you saw with the Packers last night, you manage the schedule. The coaches, they'll break down the schedule into 4 quarters. And it's kind of like the whole goal is to go 3-1 in each quarter. If you go 3-1 in each quarter, you win 12 games, and you got a 1 seed. So I mean, you break it down, you manage the schedule, and with these pro players, I mean, they're paid to play the game, so there's not really going to be much emotional swings from week to week.
I like what Ed does there. He's staying ahead of the schedule, watching one game this week, knowing who the opponents will be the following week. You mentioned Seattle's week 2 game on the road against San Diego, and there just mentioned UTSA and their road assignment against Oklahoma State. That's why you watch the games, Ed. Not so much for your action, but you're looking for future wagers.
I mean, well, tonight I did have action on the college game, and I was able to take that home. But again, even if you don't have action, you can watch games last year and just pick up things from this year. Again, I had the benefit of watching Temple locally constantly, and even though I didn't have much action on their games previously, I got to see how Coach Adazio got the game plan, and I'm able to put that into this bet here today, a couple years later.
Yeah, the information is good. Do you find there's any regional bias, though? When you're there in the Philly area, so when you talk NFL, when you talk about the Eagles, we know you know what you're talking about. Same with the college football or college basketball. You like to mention the Philly area schools. Do you think that's a help or a hazard sometimes?
Well, in this situation for Temple football, they've been awful for so long that when someone comes in here and turns that program around, and you've seen that program be awful for so long, you're like, wow, this guy knows what he's doing and it is good, because you saw the same story year after year of just, JUCO transfers and just poor coaching and undisciplined play. And then all of a sudden this guy comes in and is able to coach these same types of kids and be able to put them kind of a winning product onto the field. There can be some bias. I look at everything just from a judge. But I think with the locally, I think it's actually better because you get more of that inside information than you do looking at teams on a national basis. You get to see the day in and day out operation of the program.
We still have to get one more play from Ed the Statman, his website, EdTheStatMan.com. You can follow him via Twitter at EdTheStatMan. He's kind enough to join us on a weekly basis. And check out the website. I like what you've done, Ed. You've kind of flipped the script on the sports advisory service. Instead of charging for your plays, all of your selections are free via Twitter. Instead, you charge a nominal fee, less than $20 a month, for the content, how you arrive at those selections.
Yeah, I mean, I have no interest in selling picks or anything, and I really didn't really have much interest in, getting into the business at all. But one of the things this has helped me do is not only just to share my information on forums and have scouts take them anyway, and kind of take the information as their own. At least I have it behind the curtain now, where at least I'm getting a fee for all the work I'm putting into it and posting it, and it's a good thing because I look at it as like a supplement to your handicapping. I mean, these are just the stats that I come up with and the way I look at things, and there's a lot of people out there that work 9-to-5 jobs and have families and have extracurricular activities, but they enjoy handicapping, they enjoy sports betting, and I have the ability and the tools with my database to be able to query things. So I'll take requests from customers constantly. I'm looking at this. Can you look it up and see what kind of results there are? And I have no problem doing that. So it's kind of like being able to help people and supplement their handicapping and just put the facts out there. All my opinions are free, but here's the facts of how I see it, and then you just do your own analysis. So you can do your own analysis and make the picks and manage your bankroll the way you see fit.
Yeah, real quickly.
And that's the whole premise behind the website.
Yeah, let me make an addition to that. I've been in Vegas for a lot of years, and I listen to a lot of radio shows and hear people make a pick or who do you like, and then the most important thing is why did they like it. You went into a little detail here on the Boston College and why you like it, and that would be enough to sway me on a game that I hadn't even looked at. So you take the coaching situation, you take the number, you take the movement of the number, 4.5. That's a nice plus number in case you lose the game by 4 points, which is kind of a key number sometimes. So, and plus your analysis. We used to have a lot of shows where people would give picks. In fact, we have a couple times here in Vegas, we have contests where the people come on and they compete against each other, and then you get a rundown of why they like them. And it's not just off the top of the head because they've already put up an entry fee of $1,000 or $5,000 to play, and so it's the supporting evidence that makes the plays we listen to more valuable. So for the rest of our listens, I'm going not even knowing this game, but the way it was presented, I'm probably going to play Boston College myself.
Let's step aside and take the final time out of the show. When we return, more with Brent Carter and Ed the Statman. We'll get Ed's top play in Week 1 in the National Football League. I'll go on record with a selection in that Oregon-Michigan State game. You're listening to the EOG Sports Hour.
There's no such thing as a sure thing, unless you're talking about Ion Gaming. Ion Gaming is a website dedicated to the hearts and minds of sports bettors everywhere. If you're looking for smart, sophisticated sports handicapping information and insight,
Go to EOG.com.
if you're looking for the latest news on the ever-changing landscape of Nevada's race and sportsbook industry,
Go to EOG.com.
if you're looking for the most recent developments involving the worldwide sports betting scene with an emphasis on the leading sports books in San Jose, Costa Rica,
Go to EOG.com.
and finally, if you're looking to join an online community of sports gamblers where registration is free and the information is priceless,
Go to EOG.com.
you get the idea. Why gamble on other sports betting websites when Ion Gaming is a sure thing?
And I love a sure thing.
Time now for the JK Play of the Day. This is John Kelly's single strongest recommendation against the current numbers at the M Resort here in Las Vegas.
Big Ten against the Pac-12 at Outson Stadium in Eugene, Oregon on Saturday, 3:30 Pacific time kick. Fox to televise. I'll take the dog and the under in this game. No need to play at odds of 11-10. I think you can play this game at 13-5. I think if I'm right with the side, I'll be right with the total. I trust the head coach, Mark D'Antonio. What a job he did last year. Beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game as a dog and then wheeled right back in the Rose Bowl and won as a dog against Stanford. True, some losses on the defensive side of the ball, but I don't think Oregon, with Chip Kelly removed from that program an extra year, I think there'll be some slippage. And D'Antonio's had time to prepare for this team. They had a tune-up against Jacksonville State. Their quarterback, Michigan State's quarterback's getting better as they go. Connor Cook, and that'll advance the chains more often. That'll help the defense, I think, shut down. Well, they can't shut down Oregon's offense, but I think they can play slow. I remember oddsmaker Michael Roxborough once said it's very tough to set a total on a game where a fast team plays a slow team. It's easy when two fast teams play against one another, very easy when two slow teams play one another, but when a fast plays a slow, that's a tough total to set. So I think if you've got the right side, you've got the right total. I'm going to go Michigan State plus 12 and under 56, game 351. Ed the Statman, I've painted you into a corner, just about a minute remaining. Best bet Week 1 in the National Football League.
466 under Vikings, Rams 43. Not really my best bet, but just something I played already because I think the line's going to go down. Vikings offense that revolves around Adrian Peterson. Rams defense revolves around having one of the best defensive lines in football. That's going to be a very tough matchup of who's going to give first. That's going to result in the Vikings not be able to move the ball that much. Rams playing a backup quarterback, and they don't have that many playmakers on offense. Fisher's a conservative coach, so look for him to be happy here. Playing a low-scoring game where he puts his backup quarterback in a position not to lose the game and not to make mistakes. 466 under Vikings, Rams 43.
EdTheStatMan.com. Check out the website. It's good. EdTheStatMan.com. Again, you can follow him via Twitter at EdTheStatMan. Final word goes to Brent Carter. Brent, you have a note on season win totals in the National Football League.
Yeah, okay, we only have about 1 minute left. If you like season wins, just keep in mind, you better bet by Sunday or you're going to be out of chance on the wins. But you tie your money up for a long time. If you play them small for entertainment.
That's against what a lot of pros like to do. They like to attack those season win totals, but you say it takes up a lot of the bank.
Yeah, no. If you attack them, they're talking about attacking them early when you have some lopsided numbers or when it's a 7 before it's a 7.5 moved everybody. Yeah, I'm talking about just a casual bettor that might be listening tonight. get them in if you want to just have some cheering money.
That was a fast-moving show. You heard 4 voices on tonight's show. We want to thank Arturo O'Connor. We want to thank EdTheStatMan and my co-host tonight, the accomplished poker pro, Brent Carter. Don't miss tomorrow night's show, Railbird and Computer Bob in a one-on-one handicapping duel. You can go to EOG.com to find out more information on that event. Our conversation continues at EOG.com. Thanks for listening.